Welcome back. I'm Michael Bull, and this is the Commercial Real Estate Show. If you'd like to know the absolute latest on any commercial real estate related topics, check out our on-demand show podcast. For example, last week we covered Obamacare effects on commercial real estate, and we shared intel on healthcare real estate investment market. There are lots of interesting shows to choose from. Grab your phone, tablet, or computer and visit iTunes or the show website, commercialrealestateshow.com. Well, today we're discussing best practices to sell your professional services with Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Group. And Rod, sometimes at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, is a time when people like to look back at the year before and see what happened, what went well and what didn't go well or not so well, and then plan the next year. What should folks in our audience be thinking about in that regard?
Well, you actually said yourself, sometimes people do this, and unfortunately, not enough times do folks do this from a sales perspective. It is the optimal time of year to review and reflect on how that prior year went. Now, it's not just a year. We do this for our clients every year and then every 6 months, and we have some semi-shorter, condensed quarterly reviews. So there's never a bad time to review what you did. But number one, I would say go back and look at absolutely everything you did. I mean, everything you did, from maybe opinions of value or proposals, depending on your niche and your industry focus, presentations, everything you did, what succeeded, what didn't, and why not. That's the number one thing. Look at your efforts, look at your activities, look at your calls, look at your meetings, look at whatever there may be that you can have and you've tracked numbers on. You know, we're a coaching organization, so we coach that stuff and we track that stuff. But look back at all your numbers, because there's an ESPN, and I feel like that today, there's an ESPN little segment that says numbers never lie. And Michael, they don't. Numbers never lie. So look at your numbers and really see what you're doing from an activity front, and then you can set a base for going forward.
Okay. And you can also look at what you invested in or what you didn't invest in, I guess, as well, too. So if you went to networking groups or you were paying for some promotional items, you can kind of look back, too, and say, well, was that money or that time well spent, right?
Absolutely. You got to look at the ROI factor, return on investment, what you put together and the plans you had. Did you implement them correctly? I'll be the first to say we've put things together and we launched programs that they didn't work, and I know now why they didn't work, and we wouldn't do that again, right? But there's also the return on involvement, David Noor theory, and that is that the time you spend, was it worth your time? And we find a lot of folks just coming into our programs really have a very low ROI, return on involvement, how they spend their time from a production standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I've had some brokers ask me, should I go to this meeting and go to that meeting? And the meetings were very general and really weren't specific to what they really do for a living. And I just said, no. You'd be better off doing something that's really in your sector where your clients are going to be, right?
Absolutely. One of my old supervisors used to always ask, what's a success look like? If we do this, what does success look like? And we ask our clients, I'm going to a conference or I'm going to a show or I'm going to whatever it might be. We ask the question, well, before you go, what's success going to look like? Sometimes you get a little cross-eyed perspective saying, well, what do you mean by that? Right? Mm-hmm. So really, you leave that meeting, how can you tell me it was successful? If they can't articulate it, we suggest they don't go.
Well, that's a good point. So let's look at what success might look like when you are planning. So you've looked back at your last trailing 12 months or whatever time period you've looked at, and now you're looking ahead. What do you do with that old information of what you did wrong and right, and to start planning and implementing your activities moving forward? Well,
first you have to ask yourself why. So if you ask the question, which you should ask, what met or exceeded expectations, which most sales professionals, top producers especially, have a hard time articulating because they never think they do good enough, right? But you have to write that down, what met or exceed your expectations, and understand that and how we can leverage that. That's the first thing. If things did not meet expectations, then you really ask the questions, why not? And so we can formulate some objectives going forward. And from that, once you have those objectives, look, you get down to the nitty gritty. How are we going to achieve those goals? Something we got to really talk about. How specific are we going to achieve those objectives?
Right, and let's talk about that. What are some of the pillars for success? What are some of the ways that they should implement that plan to be successful?
Well, you have to understand if it's real or not. If you're going to say, for example, that example I gave earlier, I'm going to make $1 million, great. Show me how we're going to get there, right? Because potentially there's not the velocity in the marketplace or is not in the position right now to have that done. So there's always a reality check when it comes to hitting objectives and then setting specific metrics to make it happen.
Okay. And should those metrics be monthly, weekly, daily?
It depends on the actual action step. Great question. Most of the metrics we track, because we find it to be true with our folks, is that it has to be weekly. It just has to be weekly. And those are the simple metrics. Could be number of calls or number of meetings or proposals or pitches, references, and the like. And that's just from a prospecting. Then when it comes to presence, number of touches, number of impressions. But there are some monthly metrics, but we don't go beyond monthly, because if you track beyond monthly, less likelihood of it actually being done.
Okay. And, it seems like when people are in let's say you're a commercial real estate agent, you really need to look at that you're running your own business, right? And so you've got to work on your business as well as in it.
Absolutely true. I like the theory that's an E-Myth theory there, and you're absolutely correct. There is. And we look at the percentage of working on and in. Every 6 months, we look at that percentage where our clients are doing. If that gets out of whack, if we see less than 80-20, something's wrong. If it's 95 in doing deals, right, transactions, representing clients, mortgages, something's wrong. You're not building your business. You're working transaction to transaction, and that's problematic.
But when you get to salespeople, Rod, some people that are in sales are there because they're great salespeople, but they're not real organizational people, and they'll say to me, I don't really have time for that. I'm just really busy meeting and talking with the clients. I don't have time to look down and organize what I'm doing and what I'm going to do, and therefore they lose a lot of value that they could be more successful. What do you say to them?
I don't have time for that. So
I don't have time to organize. I don't have time for time management.
I ain't got no time for that, as they say now. But no, to me, that's one of the biggest fallacies and the biggest weaknesses of producers, and as far as becoming a top producer. You mentioned year-end starting your strategies. I love the holidays. But it's also, for me personally, a great time to time out and look at the entire business. We suggest to our clients, take 3 days to a week and go away, and let's work on business. Mm-hmm. It's a hard concept to grasp as a producer and a driver and a assertive person, but it's the best thing you could possibly do to make your business grow.
Yeah, well, I think that's important, and then I think it comes down even to daily and weekly that sometimes they're making those calls, they're running out the door making a call, they're making a call until they go in their garage at home, and they're really not planning their day and planning their business, and so they lose a lot of opportunities.
Lots of opportunity. We make sure, for example, our clients have to plan every day what's happening the next day. They have to. And with your coaching, it seems like one of the big aspects that I see as benefits in the coaching is really accountability. Tell us about that. That's a scary word, Michael. I got to tell you. Wait a minute. I'm accountable to whom? To my coach? No, you're accountable to yourself. You are. I remember there was an old movie, and I forget who played it. Ray Foster would look in the mirror and say, "Showtime" every morning, right? I look at the mirror every morning. I do this, and I'm not embarrassed to say this. And I say to the mirror, I say to myself, you got to go get employed. You got to go get hired. This is what you got to do. Go make it happen, right? So you got to hold a little self-accountability there. You have to. But ultimately, the coach and you will work on metrics that you hold accountable every single week.
Well, I think that's very key. And if you're not holding yourself accountable and no one else is, then you may not be doing what you're doing. And I think salespeople can get involved in the hope deals and, well, if this one closes and this closes, I'll be fine. And they're not doing those daily and weekly things that if you have a coach and you're held accountable, you'll do the things that will make you success. And we're going to have more success strategies for business development and salespeople. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by your friends at Bull Realty, France Medio, Atlanta Office Liquidators, and Wiseman, Nowak, Curry, and Wilco. For more information about these companies or to access additional show podcasts, videos, or blogs, visit commercialrealestateshow.com.